That was Carnival Encounters of the Close Kind from Phi Yaan-Zek's new album, Inner Cosmic Spiral. And I'm splicing myself in from the future. I recorded this interview a couple weeks ago, and I realized in the middle of it that I was having a hardware problem with my microphone, so it didn't actually capture my audio. So here I am, a few weeks after the interview, splicing myself in to re-ask questions and put them in the video. And I just wanted to say up front that I really love this album by Phi, and I think that you should check it out if you, like me, grew up listening to instrumental guitar rock music. It is so good. And the first question I asked him is about on this Bandcamp page, he talks about this is the guitar album that he has been talking about making for many years. And so I wanted to just kind of get a sense of what he meant by that.
Well, some of these compositions go back many years. I think the last guitar instrumental album I did was 20 years ago. It was called Solar Flare in 2005. And since then, I've done albums that have been instrumental or had instrumental moments, but the focus hasn't been to sort of really explore the guitar's expressivity and deliver something where the guitar's the real main focus and everything centered around the guitar. So this album's been there for a while. I mean, it took me a while to really finish it off. Obviously things have grown over the years, but there were some daunting moments on this guitar, which I kind of like kept putting off, thinking, let me do that later, let me do that later. And eventually last year, I just said, it's now or never. I have to finish this album now. Otherwise, I'll never do it. Otherwise, it'll just perpetually be pushed back with other projects that I've got going on. So that was it. Was the one. It's an album that I've been dreaming of doing since I was a teenager, since I fell in love with the guitar. It's an album that I just wanted to give something back to all, after listening to all those great, classic instrumental albums, from Vi and Satriani and Jeff Beck. After those albums have inspired me so much, it's almost like I've been meaning to make my statement on the guitar, but also with my own, rather than just copy my heroes, it's really make my own statement, my own voice, and follow on a bit from Solar Flare, which is kind of what, I started doing with that album. Well, it's like you growing up as a teenager, just loving those albums, but you also realize that the albums that really work for you are the ones that have great guitar playing mixed with great compositions, and there's an artistic voice behind that. There's a statement there's purpose behind. If you take something like Passion and Warfare, it's not just a guitar instrumental album. It is a guitar instrumental album, but there's so much depth and there's so much that wants to be said behind the music, and the guitar becomes a vehicle for that expression. So I felt I had a lot to say, a lot to explore, conceptually, and the guitar, okay, it can't speak in terms of lyrics, but it can speak in terms of melody and inflection. And there's a magic to that. There's a magic to that takes us on a journey, an inner journey in a sense.
The musicians on this album are top notch. Phi actually got 2/3 of the Aristocrats as his backing band. So Marco Minnemann is playing drums throughout that whole album, and Bryan Beller on bass. And then on some tracks, he's got Lalle Larsson on keys, and he's an unbelievable player. If you don't know him, look him up. And then Terry Syrek, who's a guitar player whose name I haven't heard in many years. I'm really glad he's still out there doing stuff. And I was really pleased to see his name and to hear his playing on this album. But I really wanted to hear what Phi had to say about this incredible backing band that he has on Inner Cosmic Spiral.
Well, I've been working with Mark actually since 2003, when we sort of got together to do the Solar Flare sessions in Germany. And since then, Marco's opened a lot of doors for me. When he moved to San Diego, he opened me up to the Mike Keneally group of musicians. And being a huge Mike Keneally fan, that was just like, oh, great. And so got to meet Mike, work with Mike, got to meet Bryan as well and work with Bryan. And he's since become, one of my favorite bass players and a real key iconic sound to a lot of my instrumental. So it was just a natural outgrowth of working with Marco to be sort of led into that Mike Keneally world and having Bryan on board. And Bryan and Marco, obviously, they're the aristocrats, part of the aristocrats. So they've now gel together. They know each other's style so well that they sort of lock in so well, and especially for all the crazy stuff. So if I wanted, stretch out and stop doing polyrhythmic madness and all the rest of it, or playing with some goofy ideas, they're just great for following on with that and just sort of jamming and trying new things. In the studio, there was a lot of jamming, a lot of playing around with ideas and sections and sort of trying new things. And they're both up for that, which is great. And they're both very open and playful and as well awesome musicians. So yeah, it's just a great rhythm section. They were on the Realities My Plaything album as well, which came out in 2018, the double album. So they were a key part of that. So yeah, and Brian's been doing some recording for me since I think he first did something on in 2012, Deep with the Anima album. He's on that one as well. So we've sort of been recording for the last last decade or so. It's been longer than I think. And Lalle Larsson is we were at music school in Vienna together in the mid 90s. So we just became great friends, hit it off, and I think he's on a good percentage of my albums. I mean, he's just such a phenomenal musician and such a, I mean, not only technically, but in terms of ear, in terms of his ability to play over weird changes at the drop of a hat. So he's the guy that just can sort of deliver something musical that's intensely technical and unbelievable. So he's always just another mainstay of my music. And then that just filmed the basis, just having a great band to play with these ideas and deliver the sound and deliver the energy is just makes the icing on the cake. And this music was tough, so I needed a band that could sort of could go the extra mile and play this music comfortably. I mean, not just straining to get it, but just sort of have the ability to just relax and deliver it with sort of ease and sort of fluidity.
So the next song I want us to listen to is called Kithing with Ultras. And I had never heard of this word kithing before, and the track is so awesome, so I thought I would ask Phi to sort of set it up for us so we know what we're going to hear.
Kithing with ultras. Well, kithing is a term that came from a book by Madeleine Engel called A Wrinkle in Time. It's a children's book from the 60s. They made a movie, Disney. Yeah, exactly. So the term kithing comes from that, and it's a kind of telepathic communication, is how it's explained in the book.
I'm gonna cut it there. It keeps going, but what an awesome song! I just love sort of that angular feel. You know, it's very proggy in a sense, but it's so unusual. You know, tell us about how do you write these this kind of music and soloing over it. There are some chord changes on this album where I was like, he's doing that on purpose, just to challenge himself. These chords make no sense together.
Yeah, there's silly moments like that. I mean, that the basis of that song is really exploring modes from the melodic minor scale. There's something about the melodic minor I love. It has a sort of really mysterious quality. So that's kind of the Lydian augmented and Mixolydian flat six tonalities from melodic minor, and also then grouped into seven. And then the main melody is arranged in fifths. The main melody has notes from the Close Encounters theme in it as well. So we're just jiggled around slightly. And the solo also has, I quote that again in the solo a little bit as well. So there's probably little bits that are sort of, I think the idea is it's quoting little fragments from Close Encounters to sort of give that sort of slightly otherness quality. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of that is contrast. I mean, it's coming up with a modal and melody, and then finding in the B section something to contrast with it. And the B section actually has it uses sort of major slash chords. So like kind of the idea I got it from Joe Satriani's Hordes of Locusts. There's a B section in that which uses sort of major slash chords, sort of major chords with sort of unusual root notes, basically, sort of like a tritone below, rather something like that. So that sort of creates a sort of interesting sound in itself. It's like it's major, but then the bass note makes it sound not quite major. So it sort of messes with the listener a bit. You've got that major sound, but you've got the bass note sort of throwing it off and giving it a completely different quality. So it's these contrasts that I play with. And then yeah, the solo is again in that tune is based around the melodic minor mode, but I like to sort of weave in and out of it a bit. There's some sort of extra chromaticism and some outside notes from outside playing from that. So it's rooted in melodic minor, but kind of weaves in and out of it.
Okay, so yeah, you're gonna have to talk about this. These songs are not easy, and getting a group of musicians together to learn not easy music is also not easy. Did you have
Yeah.
charts? Like, how are these guys learning this music? Because there are parts where there's like really strange rhythmic stuff happening. Um, or I remember there was one part, I can't remember in which song, but just out of nowhere, there's this total shred breakdown. And then Marco is playing sort of in time, and then you all land at the right spot. Like, how are you coordinating all of this complexity? Are you in the studio working on things together, or is this like asynchronous?
No, the core trio of me, Marco, and Brian worked together in the studio. So first of all, we rehearsed for about 4 or 5 days before going into the studio together. So just to get the material down, iron out anything, and it was all done from charts. I charted everything out. And then we went in rehearsal to make sure that everything could be, if there were any issues or the arrangements, getting the right tempo and feel for everything. So we did a lot of that ironing out in the rehearsal time, and then into the studio for another 5 days of intense recording. Um, they're just total pros, Marco and Brian. They read like, they read, they memorize it as well. So. Um, it's just a privilege to work with such amazing musicians who can deliver on that level. Um, so the we recorded basically the drums, bass, and some rhythm guitar parts live. Or sometimes I'd play a melody part. It's whatever carried the bulk of the song, because obviously there's loads of guitar layers. So I was playing a part that was usually the clean rhythm part, sometimes a melody part that I would play in just to keep it keep the sort of the feel together. I think it's important to just try and get at least the basis of the band, the basis of the trio track live, just so it has that. energy, and we're together, and we've got the visuals as well. We can all see each other in the studio. It was done at Double Time Studios in San Diego, which sadly is closed down now as Jeff has moved on. But it's a studio where a lot of the Mike Keneally albums are recorded back in the day. So um, that was where that was done.
Yeah, and you mixed and mastered all this yourself. And having just gone through that myself,
Yeah,
I was listening to your mix and just going, wow, he's so, like your guitar playing and recording is so good that you can mix it way up front. For me, I kind of like nested my guitars in with everything else, but I really admired just how upfront, and I think that was another part of the guitar instrumental ness of the album. The guitar is front and
yeah.
center. I mean, it's really the drums and bass are supporting it, but melodically the guitar is always right there. So I thought it was a really neat listen in that respect.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was done specially for that. The guitar is the voice. The guitar is the main star. The spotlight is on the guitar, and hence it had to be mixed that way. And so there's no shying away from it. It's really every so the performances had to be good because everything's going to be in the spotlight, and everything's going to be showing up, and that's great because there's an intimacy with that. There's an intimacy when you listen to the guitar and you can hear every little pick scrape, or the little rakes and all those little micro dynamics just make such a richness to the sound and the guitar playing.
Absolutely. So this album just came out, I think, on the 18th last week, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Congratulations on the launch.
Thank you. Thank
Uh,
you.
I hope you're selling a bunch of copies. And for anyone who's watching or listening to this interview, you can get the new album Inner Cosmic Spiral on Bandcamp, pyzmusic.bandcamp.com. Is there anywhere else you want people to go to learn about this?
That's the main place. Everything's on the Bandcamp page. I mean, there's pyzmusic .com is my website, but it all links back to the Bandcamp. All my releases are on the Bandcamp, and there's all the blurb about all the albums and credits and everything's on the Bandcamp page as well. So
Okay,
you can
great.
check it all out there.
Will you
Yeah.
be performing this publicly at all?
I've already done some performances, but it's just me and a laptop at the moment doing the backing band. So it's a bit tricky with being in the UK and Marco and Brian in the States. It's hard to hook back up with them. I'm looking at other replacement musicians, but it's hard finding someone who could cope with this material.
Mm,
But at the moment, I've done a few gigs with just live guitar and laptop playing the backing tracks,
that's
which have
great.
gone down pretty well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Phi, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your music with us. I think I forget. I think "A Child in Eternity" was the one I wanted to close out on. I believe this is the one that has a really strange chord sequence to kick off, like an arpeggiated keyboard sequence. Is that correct? Or maybe
It starts
guitar?
off with a Nashville guitar.
That's what it is. Yeah, Nashville guitar. Okay. So yeah, tell
Yeah.
us about "A Child in Eternity" before we take a listen.
Child in Eternity has it's a sort of more of a laid back acoustic. There's a lot of acoustic layers to it, and acoustic guitar doubling the main electric guitar melody. There's a ukulele in there, so it has a little bit more of an acoustic feel and laid back. Um, but the idea was to sort of have a sort of folky acoustic vibe, and then this cinematic intensity building up. There's a sort of intense middle section where the the distortion gets whacked on full. So I was going for very much a cinematic texture with this one. A lot of um, yeah, cinematic, and also a lot of delicacy in the main guitar melody. So that contrast between the delicate guitar melody, the folky interludes, and the sort of intense sort of distortion in the middle, which comes up with where there's even a little shred lick in the middle there somewhere that some intense tapping that sort of crept in, which worked well. It's amazing how sometimes you think, no, that'll be too much, but it worked well in the whole energy of the piece. So it's yeah, very cinematic. I really enjoyed the way this came out, and also the Nashville guitars. that just adds a little sort of lovely flavor to the whole composition.
Yep, totally agree. And it does get really intense in the middle. So thanks again. We'll listen to this, and
Well,
that'll be the end.
thank you, Anthony. Appreciate this, and great to speak with you finally.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Here we go.